The requests rules regarding public testimony are as follows. Anyone wishing to testify during the public hearing may do so once recognized by me, or may, in lieu of oral testimony, submit written testimony to the chair. All recognized speakers must approach the podium, state their name and address for the record, and speak clearly into the microphone. All comments must be addressed to the board, should be relevant to the application, and may not be of a personal nature or personal attacks. All speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. If members of the board have any questions of the speaker, that time will not be counted toward the total 5 minutes. If there's a large number of speakers, including many who are part of groups or organizations, I may, to avoid repetitive comments, elect to ask for a representative to speak on behalf of the group or organization. Speakers are notified that relevant comments or comments of a personal nature or personal attacks may result in the speaker forfeiting his or her opportunity to participate in the public hearing. I may elect to recognize the applicant agent at the end of the public hearing to provide rebuttal or additional comments, which will be limited to 5 minutes. If members of the board have any questions of the applicant agent, that time will not be counted toward the 5 minutes. After all testimony is heard, I will declare the public hearing closed and no further public comment will be permitted. Uncivil, unruly, and or disruptive behavior at any time during this meeting is prohibited and will result in removal from this public meeting. State law requires the board to consider findings of fact for each conditional use and variance request. The request cannot be granted unless a majority of the quorum present, and we do have a quorum, by the way, finds in the positive of all the findings of fact. The board may elect to continue the hearing to another date if it needs additional information. Applicants and requesting parties will be notified in writing by the planning division of the board's findings and conclusions, regardless of whether a request is approved or denied. Decisions of the board can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Montague County within 30 days upon receipt of the written notification. Any work done relating to decisions rendered by this board during this 30-day period is at the sole financial risk of the applicant. Thank you for your consideration and respect for these proceedings and the opinions of all meeting participants. We're going to take the roll. Ms. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Plyler.
Here.
Mr. DeWitt.
Here.
And Mr. Benson present, and we do have a quorum. We have meeting minutes to review from February 21st. Any comments or suggested changes to the meeting? I didn't see anything.
No,
All right, so just for the record, I move that we accept the meeting minutes from February 21st, 2024.
I'll second.
All those wanting to accept the meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so moving to new business, first case is CU 24-01, Father Brian Krenwelg, 1481 University Avenue, request by Father Brian Krenwelg on behalf of St. John University Parish, Diocese of Wheeling, Charleston, for a conditional use permit approval of a restaurant family use at 1481 University Avenue as required by section 1331.05 of the city's planning and zoning code regarding permitted land uses. City Tax District 11, Parcel 26, Parcel 33 in the R2 single and two family residential district.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
The applicant seeks to convert a small gathering space in the lower level of Newman Hall at St. John University Catholic Parish into a coffee shop. According to the application and site plan provided, the coffee shop will include a kitchen area and accommodate up to 21 patrons for table service and/or seating. The new coffee shop will encompass 800 square feet and operate the following dates and times listed in your packet. The applicant indicates that no more than 5 employees will be working at the coffee shop during their busiest times. Since the parish seeks to make the space available for an independently owned and operated coffee shop, the applicant seeks conditional use approval to establish a restaurant family use as well as a mixed-use building use at the current facility at 1481 University. And then you can see the definitions of both those type of uses in your packet. You can see on the screen, here's the subject property here, generally outlined. The current Newman Hall is here, and this is the associated parking lot. Again, this is the tax map parcel viewer map showing the same thing, and then the image on the right-hand side is the city zoning map. And again, you can see that all of the parish property is in the R2 district, which requires the conditional use approval for the two types of uses that are being pursued. Given the current uses at the facility, the applicant would need to make at least 13 dedicated parking spaces available for the restaurant family use. And I lay out in the staff report what the requirements are for both the restaurant family and mixed-use building. Note, on the parish property, there are approximately 64 off-street parking spaces, 3 of which are accessible to disabled. This is compliant with Table 136501 regarding required parking spaces accessible to the disabled per West Virginia State Building Code. And that will conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Yeager.
Up on the screen is just the layout that's in your packet of the proposed use. And up in the right-hand corner and blown up in your packet is a picture of Newman Hall. And on the one entry point, maybe the applicant addressed that there's, I think, several entry points that showed on this site plan that you can enter the facility, but maybe they can address on what would be a primary exit if there, or primary entry point if there is one.
Right.
And that will conclude my report.
Thank you. Do we have a representative for this case? CU 24-01. Yeah, please just state your name and address for the record.
Father Brian Crenwelch, 1481 University Avenue is the property.
And then would you like to just present an overview
Sure.
as to what you propose?
Sure. I'm the pastor of St. John University Parish. The Newman Hall is right next to the church. It was built in 1925. At that time, it was a residential hall for students. It's not been that for many years, which is why I assume it's a residential, zoned as residential. We're right, as you can see, on the campus. There are businesses right across the street from us, and we have our basement area is largely unused during the week. And so about a year ago, I was approached by Joe and Joe Coffee out of Charlestown, and we've just been talks to, we think this would be a great opportunity for students on campus, another place to gather, all around, just like for a coffee shop. So.
So you propose are you anticipating table service, or is it going to be
They would go up
counter
to the counter and, yeah.
service? Okay. Any questions for Father Grunwelch? I don't think we have any further questions at this time.
Actually,
Do you?
yeah, I do. In the application, and in a couple locations, it mentions parking allocated for the coffee shop, and then one additional spot allocated for the administration / residents. How many? Is it really one that is necessary for the people who live and work in the rectory, essentially? Like, how many people actually live upstairs? Does anybody?
Yes, myself and another priest
And is there a secretary there during?
during business hours.
So potentially 3 vehicles.
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Platt, if I may, just on the actually, that might be in your staff report in the packet, but this is actually, I think, dedicated or
Yeah,
sectioned off as
we have a section off
parking
for our
lot.
staff.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that included in the 64?
Yeah, the requirements based on the current occupancy and proposed use, they exceed what they need to right now.
Mhm.
All right.
So there's still a surplus of
Yeah.
Yeah.
about 34 spots,
Sure.
since 30 are
Okay.
intended for the restaurant family mixed use.
And there, do you foresee any, and I knew, you noted that most of you're anticipating most of the traffic to be on foot, which is probably true. But do you foresee a time when there may be a full mass and people in the coffee shop? Would that,
So
Say
the,
on a Saturday, afternoon or evening.
yeah, like a Saturday service?
so the
or something?
coffee shop will be closed on Sundays, and then I think it'll be closed according to the hours during our mass time on Sunday evening
Okay.
or Saturday evening as well.
Okay.
For it's Thursday, Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay. But even still, that shouldn't conflict because the Saturday evening mass is not our principal mass. It's 8:30 and 11 on Sunday morning. That's where we get our main people.
What about non-ordinary time services? Say, for example, like an Ash Wednesday. Just trying to anticipate possible.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that's
I agree. It's principally pedestrian
Yeah.
traffic,
And
walking in, walking out, but still.
and we deal with that already. I mean, during a school day with traffic and with people, the students in town. I mean, if there's any kind of event at the church, people have to do street parking. I mean, that's just pretty normal.
Off your lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So the objective is not to replace the church's coffee.
No.
Right, right. And are there 3 ADA compliant spots? There are? Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe this doesn't come under our purview, but your principal entrance does not look as if it's
Sure. And we have
ADA compliant.
we have a,
So there seems to be a disjunction there
so he's probably bringing it up.
between the
Oh, yeah.
spots and the
Sorry.
entry point.
If you can see, we have on the left side there, that one right where is where the ADA compliant door would be.
Right.
Yes.
That's on the back side of the building that opens to grade?
Oh, go ahead, sir.
So we have a sidewalk. You can't really see in this picture, but there's a sidewalk from the main entrance that goes directly to that door.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
So it's just a roll in. Yeah, okay. Just because that side entrance does not look
Sure.
as if it's
Yeah.
consistent with ADA standards. All right. Yeah, thanks for addressing that. That was my main question.
I do have a follow-up regarding the accessibility. So the secondary, I don't think there's really any issue about the primary entrance not being accessible because the code is clear that it doesn't really have to be as long as you provide some other entrance. But looking at the information, the images provided, it appears as though all of the accessible spots, accessible as handicap, all the accessible spots are not, according to the way that code specifies, are not really accessible to that back entrance. You have to go upstairs.
So you can go upstairs on that one way, but around this is actually on. You don't have to go to any stairs on the that side right there. Yes.
Is that, do you have appropriate signage to say that this is where the accessible?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's my only question.
And is there ADA, for the 3 ADA spots, there's already signage in place?
Yep.
Okay.
And it signage that directs where the ramps are? And,
Yeah, we're a church, so we have to have that.
Yeah, okay, all right.
What is your anticipated opening date?
We were hoping for late July, August. Yeah, August.
Do you have any questions?
I do not.
I think we're all set for now. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in support of and in opposition to this case? CU 24-01. Now's your opportunity to do so.
This is an opportunity, so I'm one of the owners of Joan and Joe. Is this an appropriate time for me to talk?
It's a public hearing, so
Okay.
yes.
There we
If
go.
you
Go
want
ahead.
to, if you
Alright.
want to.
Well, my name's Duncan Ennis. I live at 85 Abington Court in Charlestown. My wife and I started Joan and Joe in Charlestown about 3 years ago, right in the middle of COVID, which has been actually a blessing for us because we've had this opportunity to really grow our small business, and it's a takeaway only where we're at in Charlestown. And meeting our customers and growing as a business together, a family business, we found this opportunity to be just perfect for us. We recently were voted best coffee shop in West Virginia by WV Living. That was just November that came out. And so we're really excited about this idea. Working with Father Brian, and the location is just fantastic for meeting all the new students and finding a place for them to work and to gather is tremendous. And if you had any questions about our operation, I'd be more than happy to answer them as well.
Any questions? No?
All right,
Well,
that's
thank
great.
you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to this case? Seeing no one, close the public hearing. Did you have additional?
It is the duty of the Board of Zoning Appeals to determine whether the proposed request meets the standard criteria for a conditional use permit by reaching a positive determination for each of the findings of facts submitted by the petitioner. If the board disagrees with the petitioner's findings and determines the proposed request does not meet the standard criteria, then the board must state findings of fact and conclusions of law on which to base its decision to deny the subject variance petition in accordance with the state code referenced in your packet. After review, staff had no additions, corrections, or modifications to the findings of fact as presented. And while staff did not provide a recommendation for this application, if the Board of Zoning Appeals approves the conditional use permit for the restaurant, family, and mixed-use building uses, staff recommends the following conditions listed in your packet. The exception being the criterion number 1. Because the parking is being, the off-street park is being met on-site and at another location or a shared facility, the requirement to put up adequate signage for that particular use should not be included in this recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
And that will
Okay.
conclude staff recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Any outstanding questions or, no?
I always.
No, no, by all means.
I have a question for you, actually, that pertains to the mixed use. I know that the way the building code situates mixed use is that it's based on a certain percentage of the overall building square footage. And in the building code, it's generally 10%. Anything over 10%, it's mixed use. In the zoning for the city, is there anything that's percentage based, or is it just if it exists, two separate uses that are like in this situation, it just by default is mixed use?
Great question. So yes, the zoning code does not have percentages tied to a particular type of residential or non-residential use.
Okay. And in finding of fact 3, it says provision of adequate light and air will not be disturbed. In that, in addition, this says that additions or renovations will not be made to the HVAC system. The current lighting is adequate. In the installation of the kitchen equipment, is there any anticipated additions or alterations to that?
So there's already an existing exhaust. Oh,
If
sorry.
you come up.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
because it's
Right.
report, yeah.
There is already an existing exhaust hood
Okay.
in place in the kitchen that we're going to continue using as such. There has been HVAC installed in the seating area, or will be. I think it's finished.
Okay.
So it'll be conditioned air down there.
So, is there an existing kitchen that you're going to be just occupied
It's, yes,
for the most part?
right, we'll have to bring it up to commercial kitchen standards, but
Right.
there is a kitchen in existence, so it's got plumbing, it's got the exhaust fan, it's got gas run to it as well.
Okay.
And no anticipated expansion of the kitchen space?
No, the square
footprint.
footage would remain the same of the kitchen.
You're just upgrading it?
Exactly, yeah, we'll take it from wooden countertops and, residential to commercial stainless steel, whatever the health code requires in that situation.
I know that this is a zoning specific issue here, but when you're essentially installing what would be a new commercial kitchen, so that has a risk factor as far as the building code is concerned, which is going to be significantly different than the floor above you. So that you might actually end up, when you do the building permit process, having to do some fire remediation, installation of some sort of fire barrier between the commercial kitchen on the basement and the residential
above.
and commercial above. Having said that, that doesn't impact zoning, but there actually likely will be modifications to meet building code fire safety requirements of a mixed-use
Right.
facility.
So if I may address that, I believe, and the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, but the city's code enforcement fire marshal's office at least have done a courtesy walkthrough.
Okay.
So I think some of the issues have been addressed, or the
Or will
applicant's
be.
aware of them. And then condition 2 in your packet talks about having, it's condition 3 talks about having a technical review, just to make sure
Okay,
everything
perfect.
is
Okay.
crossed and every I dotted.
All right.
So on the basis of that walkthrough, they're not anticipating a change in the any changes that would precipitate a change in the character of the mixed use anticipated?
Not that I'm aware of, but this technical review will also bring that to the forefront again.
It could be, it's likely just the addition of some studs and drywall type of stuff, not really impacting the design per se.
Yes.
Just fire blocking.
No.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yeager, for
Yes, sir.
addressing that.
Chris,
Yes.
Is it too late to
Please.
make a comment or ask a question?
We haven't closed the public hearing so please approach. And again, name and address.
I'm Jacob Cunningham. I'm at 1168 Charles Avenue. After listening to this, my only real concern is, does this endeavor, will it interfere with the ongoing Sarah's Table that happens on a weekly basis, which is an outreach to homeless and people of lesser means, providing food for them? Will any modifications to the kitchen impact that? And will the coffee shop, since it is going to be sharing space in that kitchen, affect the ongoing Sarah's Table? Is my question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. So what he's referring to is St. John's has run a soup kitchen called Sarah's Table for many years. I think it's up to about 40. It is a ministry from our church. And so purposefully, being a Catholic church, we want to continue serving the poor. So no, it will not be affecting the service to the poor in that area. So I assure you that we'll continue being who we are.
With better coffee.
Yes. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak during this public hearing portion of tonight's meeting? All right, seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing. Thank you. All right. Further discussion or questions, especially with regard to the conditions, I think, maybe? Or do we want to move to the findings of fact?
findings of fact.
They seem very straightforward to me.
Yes,
Do we have a motion, or,
yes, I will move that we accept the findings of fact as listed in the packet.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
we have a motion to accept the findings of fact for CU 24-01 with a second by, motion by Ms. Cook, seconded by Mr. DeWitt.
Correct.
How do we vote on accepting the findings of fact? All those in favor of accepting, say aye.
Aye.
Do we have, barring further discussion, do we have a motion to grant?
Yeah, I move that we grant the conditional use variance with the addition, the conditions, the two conditions that were mentioned from the city, removing the first one, any new signage for the proposed establishment, that's how it starts, and then the second one is the applicant schedules a technical review, et cetera. So,
I do have a question for the city, though. The one-way that's coming down right there and the illegal right turn that, where you can't make a right turn anymore, are they gonna permit that back around so that you can come back around?
That, I don't know, the DOH would have to weigh in on
Okay.
that.
Is it at the, so you mean at the
that
bottom
street,
of the
bottom
lot?
street, you can no longer take a right-hand turn. I'm just curious on how that's gonna affect traffic flow and things in that area, because it's already causing some weirdness.
That's, yeah, that's, it's out of our purview.
right.
So
So,
just curious.
Yeah.
Because
I
now you're
can
gonna, because
follow
you're
up
gonna have
for you.
added traffic and from that.
well, although, you know what, if it does create that much of a problem, it's not gonna change the layout. It wouldn't possibly
Nothing to do with
change the
the-
layout of the lot
No.
or the number of
I
spaces.
was just curious with the
Right.
added volume of, people coming to this coffee shop, is it gonna clot that street up
Even
more?
more.
Yeah.
Right?
I suspect that, as they stated, that it's foot traffic
Sure.
coming to
Right.
this place.
Right.
A few cars, maybe, but largely foot traffic, so I don't know
That's a
how
good
that, like, to what extent that's really an issue.
That's a good point.
All right, so we have a motion to grant the requested variance for CU 24-01.
With two
With
conditions.
with the two conditions that are specified, and we're noting explicitly that condition number 1 has been removed. It's struck from the record as no longer
Needed.
necessary or relevant. And these conditions are referenced on page 14 of the meeting packet. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second the motion.
So we have a motion to grant the variance for CU 24 by Ms. Cook, seconded by Mr. DeWitt. All those in favor, or how do we vote? Aye.
Aye.
So we've granted your requested variance or your conditional use. You will receive written notification from planning, generally within 7 business days. Please keep in mind that any work that you undertake during the 30-day appeals window, you do at your sole financial risk. But thank you very much for coming down this evening, and good luck with your project. Worthy addition to the community, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll follow up
Thank
with you.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, you will receive written notification soon. All right, you're welcome, thank you very much. All right, next case is CU 24-02. This is for, or represented by Jacob Cunningham, 1168 Charles Avenue. Request by Mr. Jacob Cunningham for conditional use permit approval for a home occupation class 2 use at 1168 Charles Avenue as required by section 1331.05 of the city's planning zoning code regarding permitting land uses, city tax district 13, tax map 21, parcel 144 in the R1, single family residential district.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
So the applicant, as you mentioned, is seeking to establish a home occupation Class 2 use in the residential dwelling, the lower level. As you can see in the packet, what defines a home occupation per the city's code versus a home occupation Class 2. The applicant intends to operate the Class 2 use on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. And the applicant provided projections in terms of the number of visitors per week, per day, and at a time that will be coming to the property. The applicant further notes that only one client will be seen at a time, and there is enough space to accommodate 2 vehicles in the existing driveway. And that will conclude staff's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yeager. Do we have a representative for this case? Mr. Cunningham? Please introduce yourself, or state your name and address, again, for the records, even though you're
I'm
already.
Jake Cunningham. I live at 1168 Charles Avenue, and I'm here for my business.
And would you care to just give an overview as to what you are?
So I'm a
anticipating?
massage therapist. I am wanting to get my house reclassified so that I can operate out of the home. I have a dedicated space that is set up. No changes need to be made structurally to the house. You can see my driveway right there. If I tried, I could probably fit 6 cars there. But I only ever am going to have one person visiting the home at a time. I'm a massage therapist, so I can only really work on one person at a time. I have built into my schedule a 30-minute window between clients so that I only ever have one person there at the home at a time. It's set up to work while my children are at school. And living on a main road, this is something we mentioned in the packet. Since it is on a main road, 3 cars at most in a day is not going to provide any massive increase to traffic to the neighborhood. There's no noise created. It's very quiet. Even when we talk, it is still 2 people talking in a room in a house.
So, on any given day, you're thinking 3 to 4.
3 tops.
3 clients in that.
From that, and those that'd be on the 9 to 2:30 days. On the 11 to 2:30 days would just be 2 clients. I've been a massage therapist for 10 years and have learned my limitations as to how many clients I can see in a given time, and still be able to give the best of me to them
Right, right. So in other words, fewer than 15
in a week.
in a given
yes.
week.
Yes,
Yeah, easily. All right.
How does this change the work you're doing now?
it does not. It brings it all up on the level.
Okay, cool.
I have been doing this for about 1.5 years, and the first year was honestly just like, is this a viable venture? And I've found that it is viable, and now I'm trying to figure out all the things I need to do to make it a legal venture, and be on the right side of everything. I've done everything I can to make sure my clients feel comfortable, from taking credit card payments to everything else, to make it as legitimate as possible. And this is the next steps to fully legitimizing everything.
Are you a licensed massage
Yes, sir.
therapist?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you utilizing just existing space in the basement?
Yes.
Not changing?
Not changing
any
anything.
rooms? That 150 square feet, is that based off of what's there? Of an existing room? Or is that based off of some legal requirement for massage therapy spaces?
It's just based off the existing space.
Okay.
I don't know if there is a legal requirement for a massage space.
Not,
Not that I know of.
are there any design requirements by the West Virginia Massage Therapy Board?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Like points of egress or things of that you can get out if there's a fire? Because if you're in a basement, is there an easy way to evacuate that room if there's a fire on the other side of that room?
If there's a fire on the other side of that room,
Yeah.
that would be problematic.
Okay.
So to address that,
There is a window that we could egress through.
Okay, that's important.
The
And it is ground level on the back of the house.
So there's a basement door then?
There is a basement door that can be accessed.
Right.
So people enter in through the door directly beside the garage, because you can see the main door centered on the house. Directly beside the garage, there is another door, and that leads.
With stairs.
There's not directly to stairs. There is a little 4x4 that then can go into the house or down the stairs. And we head down the stairs. At one point, it was an actual apartment that when my family moved in back in '95, my dad knocked out the wall to make it all into one family home. And over the years, it has seen many different purposes for the family, to the point of getting reframed back in with the door to be an apartment again for my sisters. Now, after COVID and all the changes that happened with that, this was just the next step in where I am in life. I've done massage therapy for years. I've gone to school for a physical therapy assistant. I briefly owned a gym that closed due to COVID. And then I did the stay-at-home dad thing and the homeschool thing during the first, scary year. And as the kids have gone back into public schools, we had the space and have pursued this.
Right.
to touch on that square footage question again.
Yeah.
I've not done specifically massage therapy, but as far as the building code is concerned, it's my understanding that that is considered a type of treatment,
Okay.
which falls under like a medical, just like a well, not hospital, but like any doctor's office,
Okay.
outpatient ambulatory doctor's office.
Okay.
And if you had more than 4 people in there at 4 patients or 4 clients at any one time, that'd be really complicated.
Right.
But the fact that you have 1,
Right.
it actually, to the best of my knowledge, means that your occupancy would be 2. And because you only have 2, you're not outpatient, you're actually a business use.
Okay.
And what that means is that for an occupancy of 2 with a business use, that actually requires 150 square feet per person.
Okay.
So that, I just want to throw that out there. If you're on the side of getting completely legit.
Right.
then-
So what does that mean? Does that mean open space like this? Or does that mean, how does that,
it depends.
because the house honestly is massive.
Right.
So roundabouts, the upstairs is probably about 1,800 square feet. The downstairs is about the same footprint.
And it's open plan in the
Pardon?
basement?
It
So
is
it's
not.
open.
It is not open.
Okay.
There is basically a living room, and then a kitchen, and then the massage room.
Right?
That is all the area that I use for the massage business, and then there's a restroom off of the massage room.
Right?
So there is a restroom downstairs.
There is a
That's
restroom.
good.
There's a restroom directly accessible from the massage room.
Right.
Oh, go ahead.
The way that it works is there's a difference between net and gross square footage,
Okay.
depending on, and net square footage would be like the actual space that you're using.
Okay.
Storage doesn't count, et cetera, et cetera. But in this situation, it's my interpretation that with your situation, it would be a gross number. So a closet, all of these other spaces that add up to the whole business need to provide 300 square footage.
Or more ideally, the principal massage space for you and a client, at least one of the main rooms, are we talking 300 square foot?
I'm trying to think. So the massage room
Just to
itself,
cover yourself. That's
Yeah.
a really good point.
right? The massage room itself is probably 120 square feet,
Right.
give or take. The restroom adjacent to it along, so I'm trying to think how to describe how this is set up. So,
You might have to carve yourself a little computer spot and, add an extra
right?
feet.
Well, I mean, so for what I use for the business, I do use the living room for the business. That is my general intake area. As somebody comes in, we have a seat in there because it is a nice, friendly area to talk and meet somebody and say, hi, welcome, what are we doing today?
Right.
So that is used in the living room downstairs area.
Is that counted in your total square footage that you've put in here?
If what we put in there is the 150, then no.
Because
So
that might be towards Bill's point, a
It-
good idea.
And then as I said, there is the kitchen and then the massage room. And the kitchen is actually where we do the exit. So where I have a cup of water and we sit and where payment takes place and where we talk about post-massage treatment, drink water, some stretching, whatever recommendations there are, as well as rescheduling. So all of these areas are used for the business. So does that, would that factor
Absolutely.
in?
Yeah. So, one clarification.
Yeah.
Clarification question. You have a living room. There's a living area in the basement that you use, or is it the living area upstairs?
Sounds like on the main level.
Okay, so on the main level, there is the family living room.
Right.
For
On the
intake.
downstairs level is, growing up, we called it the den. It is a secondary living room. It is what was the apartment's living room.
Okay.
So in the downstairs level, there is a living room, den, family room, whatever you want to call it,
Okay.
area, and then a kitchen, and then the massage room. So there is all of that downstairs.
And there's a separate bathroom downstairs too.
Yes.
So is it the downstairs living room you're using to meet and greet? Okay.
Yes, the downstairs living room is the meet and
Reception
greet,
area.
the reception area. And then
Okay.
we head through the kitchen into the massage room, and then we come back out to the kitchen for the
Okay.
exit, everything.
So from a practical standpoint,
Yes,
it's actually a large percentage of the basement's area that serves all of your
yes.
needs. Okay.
I mean, that's better for you for write-offs anyways, isn't it?
I think there are limits on that. You can only write off up to so many square foot, but
But you
I
require
actually
that
don't know
300,
how
so
to
now
work
you're-
all of that yet.
With having a separate lobby area and all of those kinds of things,
No.
that 300 seems a very minor point
Okay.
in reality. My only question though about that is then, so if in reality we're talking about, what was the upstairs footprint you said? 17 you said?
About 18 probably.
1,800. And doesn't the home occupation need to be
More than 25%.
no more? So what does that?
It says in the code, a home occupation shall occupy no more than 25% of the floor area of the principal structure.
600.
So-
Yours would have to be like. My brain isn't really
So-
working right now. So like 400 or 500 square feet, correct?
I just did a quick 3,600 square foot, 750, let's
Oh.
say, space.
Yeah,
is-
30
is
it would-
20, yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to count the basement as livable space for the whole thing, you're correct. Okay, I don't think it's really an issue then.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions?
No, sir.
And I actually do want to applaud you for your packet. It was very thorough. I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, it is.
You can thank Sarah Walkup for that. I don't know if anybody has anybody experience with her. She is she's a peach. She is very good at her job.
That's just good.
Public hearing.
Okay, let's go ahead and, do you have any further anything
I don't
further
think
to
so.
say? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and open the public hearing for case number CU 2024-02. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to this case, now is your opportunity to do so. Seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing. Mr. Yeager?
After review, staff had no additions or corrections or modifications to the findings of fact presented by the applicant and attached here too. And while staff did not provide a recommendation for this application, if the Board of Zoning Appeals approves the conditional use permit for the home occupation class 2, staff recommends the following conditions, which are consistent with the regulations in section 133106-2 B, C, D of the city's planning and zoning code, which talks about the home occupation shall not occupy more than 25% of the floor area. Also talks about the nature of the conduct of the business, and if it changes substantially, then the issue can be readdressed.
That's good.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or discussion before we consider findings of fact? Do you see anything?
No, pretty thorough, straightforward.
Only in the finding of fact number 2, I mean, towards the point of egress, just to make sure you have something in place in terms of like a ladder or, easy way to get out if there is a need to.
1168 Charles Avenue. So that, as I said, because of the way the land lays, coming out of the window from the massage room would be directly on ground level.
Okay.
So the bottom of the window would be 3.5 to 4 feet
Okay.
off the floor,
All right.
or off the ground, I suppose.
So no need for.
There's no need for a ladder.
I didn't know if it was like one of these up here.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, I gotcha.
Okay.
The way the building code is set up is traditionally in commercial spaces like yours, you would need 2 means of egress out. And a window doesn't really count.
Right.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, not in a commercial space, not at all.
I wouldn't think so.
But that requirement for 2 is above a certain number, and you're not even close to that.
Okay.
So your required means of egress is actually just 1. So as long as that one meets the commercial requirements for a means of egress,
Okay. As I said,
So,
from the,
but that,
didn't know that.
must that point be on the level?
No.
Of the principal, no? Okay.
well, I have 2 exits to the outside on the downstairs level of the home.
You mentioned the door and the window.
Well, not even the window. There are 2 doors on the downstairs level to exit to outside. So as you go down the stairs, where you to turn left, there is an unfinished room of storage, what we would call the shop. My dad had a wood shop there at one point. It has a direct door access to step outside. As you turn right from the bottom of the stairs, you go through the one room right there into the living room intake area, and that room has a direct door to outside as well.
Awesome.
So that room is the living room, kitchen, massage room.
Sounds
you
like
may be
covered.
required to put up signage, like
Exit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
That's mine.
Can you speak to that, Mr. Yeager?
Well, that was one, I don't know if the applicant had a courtesy walkthrough with our code enforcement or fire marshal's office or at this point. So in order to obviously, if the conditional use permit is approved, in order to get the certificate of occupancy, they will have to go through that review process
Right.
with the team, so,
Okay, perfect.
yep.
And then what about, I mean, they'll specify requirements regarding any like wiring upgrades that such illuminated signage would require?
Yeah, that's a gray area. I'm not sure how home occupations work from the life safety code, so I'd defer to the fire marshal on that in particularly, but they will have to go through that review process.
Right. All right, thank you. Thank you. Let's see.
There's no
Mr.
further questions.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
If you want, in addition to the conditions that are listed in the packet, you could look at having that walkthrough completed, and if there are issues, then have to address them before, similar to the last applicant, before any COs or building permits or anything would be issued. That would
Would you
have to
like
be
that
cleared.
Yeah, I think
included
that's-
as-
yeah, because similarly, your risk level's not significantly different than residential, but there is a slight difference. And you may run into a similar situation where they may require you to put up an extra sheet of drywall for fire protection, or something like that. So just to make sure you have those bases covered.
So you want to make that a condition also included with the,
Do you want to propose verbiage on that, Mr. Yeager,
To-
for an additional condition?
to require a courtesy walkthrough, and that if there are any issues identified from life safety or building code perspective, that they be addressed before the CO or building permits are issued.
Yeah, I think that's valid.
Okay. So we'll add that. Did you want to?
I was just curious, how does that work? How does that get set up for the courtesy walkthroughs?
We'll coordinate with you through our
Okay.
office.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you for that additional question. Do we have a,
I will.
okay, go ahead.
I move it that we accept the 8 findings of fact in the packet as stated.
All right.
I'll second
And we
that
want to
motion.
mention that we are adding a condition
That's for the
regarding,
variance.
okay.
Mhm.
Do we have a second
I'll second
on that
that.
motion? So we have a motion to accept the findings of fact for KCU 24-02 with a second by Mr. DeWitt. How do we vote on acceptance of findings of fact?
Aye.
Aye. Those findings of fact for this case have been accepted. Do we have a motion to grant the requested conditional use?
Yes, I move that we grant the conditional use with the city's conditions mentioned in the packet, B, C, D, and also the following stated by the required courtesy walkthrough, et cetera, stated by
Mr.
Mr. Yeager
Yeager.
of the city.
All right.
Well said.
So we have a motion to grant the requested conditional use for this case. And do we have
I'll second
a
that.
second by Mr. DeWitt? How do we vote?
Aye.
Aye. So your requested conditional use has been granted. You will receive written notification within generally 7 business days from planning office. And keep in mind that any work you undertake during the 30-day appeals window, you do at your sole financial risk. But thank you for coming down this evening, and good luck with your endeavor.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Last case before this board is CU, or I'm sorry, this is for a variant, signage variance. V24-01, Suncap Property Group, 485 High Street, request by City Neon, Inc., on behalf of the Suncap Property Group for variance relief from Section 1369 of the city's Planning and Zoning Code regarding signage, City Tax District 11, Tax Map 26, Parcel 73 in the B4 General Business District.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
So the applicant seeks to install 3 new wall signs at the above referenced location in your packet. 2 of the new wall signs will be above the old storefronts referenced in the packet, while the third will be mounted on the rear of the building that faces Chestnut Street. Together, all 3 internally illuminated wall signs, excluding the LED light bars and the text above the main entryway shown here on the image above that says "Almost Famous Since 1933." Above the main entrance will be encompass approximately 92.4 square feet. The LED light bars will be internally illuminated, and the logo channel letters will be made with acrylic/vinyl materials. And here's a rendering of again, the front of the building. And I apologize that you can probably see a little up closer in the packet where the light bars are. And here's what the proposed signage plan will be in the rear of the building, where the parking lot is for the Suncap Property Group's property and parking lot. Based on the proposed sign plan, the applicant seeks a variance in the amount of 62.87 square feet for the wall signage area, as well as variance relief from the following sections of 136906, which includes signs may not be internally illuminated except for neon signs, and signs shall be made of wood sculpted sign foam in the materials listed in the packet. The applicant is also seeking permission to install the LED light bars on the building as shown on the elevation drawings in your packet. And that will conclude staff's report.
Thank you. So the variance, just to be clear, the variance is for
The variance is
The-
for, oh, sorry.
interior.
No, this is for the exterior signage.
But it's illumination or?
And size.
Yeah, so it's for the total sign area. As stated in the packet, the maximum permitted sign area provided per the city's code is approximately, and I'm sorry, it just got cut off in your packet
Yes.
oddly.
Yeah, but
So
thank
you
you
had to
for-
kind of skip ahead to read. But the requirement, the max square footage allowed based on the tenant frontage is
Right.
approximately 30 square feet.
Okay, so,
So they're doing 2 signs plus neon strips.
Right.
It's the two signs and the one in the back.
so the requested is,
And an applicant can
And that-
confirm, but the
that's
two signs here,
Total square footage.
so here you can see on the 1, 2, and on the back 3, and then the above the door of the main entryway here. The light bars are not included, I don't think, in the total sign area.
Is that 74 feet, is that just on High Street, or does that include
the Chestnut
the
Street
Chestnut
too.
Street?
I believe it's just High Street. That's,
So the calculations were, okay. The total is based only on the High Street.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
That's, and I'll defer to the applicant, but that was provided in the packet. Now, again, there's the vestibule area here that you could look at it and say, well, this is actually the linear frontage of the building here for their establishment, and then over here, right? And then you could look at the back, but the 74 staff thought was an adequate approximation of what the true linear frontage of the building is for the space.
And does in the zoning code, is there a definition of what a sign actually is? And the reason why I say that, this will help explain that. Are these light bars an architectural feature or a sign?
I would probably, and I'll defer to the applicant, I would consider them architectural feature.
Right.
That's
Right.
why they're listed, they're not asked, they're requested for a variance in the packet, but they're just saying, hey, can we also put these up here?
And is there any prohibition on lighted,
As a separate
Aesthetics,
element.
lighted architectural features?
No, in terms in the B4 district, again, internally illuminated signage is not permitted, and so the code requires or says that it should be, I don't know what I'm looking for, but basically it should be uplit or, right, and obviously this is not the case in this particular.
My questioning with this is just wondering if these light bars are even need a variance,
Yeah, it's not specifically asking for a variance, they're just asking the
It's
way.
just there.
Yeah,
For the sign. okay.
correct.
It's not internal illumination, but it's still illumination.
It's internal.
It is
internal
It is
to the
internal.
sign itself,
Okay.
to the light bar, yes. Okay.
I guess I meant, but like, I meant backlit.
Right. Well, the Primanti's, this is Primanti's, right? What is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Those words are backlit.
Right.
Okay, are they
So
all?
at night they'll be
All right.
white, yes.
Thanks for the
Now, and that's part of the
clarification.
Primanti's aesthetic. I guess we can ask when they come up.
Yes.
The aesthetic of the company, right?
Yeah. So, do we have a representative for this case? Please state your name and address for the
Sure.
record.
We've got a couple. My name's Ryan Wilkinson. I am the Vice President of Marketing for Primanti Brothers. My address is 5009 Venice Road, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're excited to be here today to talk about the new restaurant that we're going to open on High Street. We're excited about the opportunity to revitalize that building and bring some additional fresh business to High Street. We've been in Morgantown now from the original location that's in Suncrest Town Center for a decade, which is wild to think that it's been there that long. And we look forward to, working to rehabilitate this building and provide a good opportunity and a good-looking building for the use of the community. I'm joined today by Craig Lemasters from Graphic Detail Incorporated, who is the signage manufacturer, as well as Crystal Miller from City Neon, who can speak more specifically to what we're looking for in terms of a variance with regard to the internal illumination, as well as the size. I would note that I think in the packet, there's about 76 feet of store frontage. And then there's an additional 19 and a half, give or take a few inches on the backside. So I do know that the signage, the size variance would be relative to the the official store frontage, which would be that 76 feet. But I would note in this case, the backside of that building could be considered as additional store frontage in the amount of an additional 20 feet, which would reduce the amount of which would reduce the overall request for the amount of signage square footage that we're requesting as a variance. With that said, Crystal is much more versed in the signage than I am and can provide more detail and answer any questions that you guys have. So if that's okay, I'll turn it over to Crystal with City Neon.
I do have a question for you from a
Sure.
managed standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
The signage that's there, that's pretty much standard Permane Brothers signage.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's completely.
So there's nothing that we're requesting in this scenario that's different from the usual signage package or branding package that we would like to bring forward in any restaurants that we open. The slight difference here is that we're typically not opening in this much of what I would consider like an urban street front. Typically we're in strip mall or freestanding. So it's a little bit different with regard to the fact that we're going into the existing building that, you know, has some age as this one does. But the overall, you know, look and feel as well as what we're putting on this would actually be a reduction typically versus what we would put on like a new build. We would have additional signage if it was, you know, going up as an out parcel to the mall or something.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep, Crystal.
Hi,
Hello.
Crystal Miller, 1095 Chaplain Road. As Ryan said, this is a pretty standard Permane's layout, given the actual location of this. It fits within all of their branding packet. They've got over 40 locations, so, I mean, they've got it down. So the storefront is actually 76. I know I said in the packet it was 74. It's actually 76, so that would kind of give us a little bit more square footage allowance on the front. I'm so nervous. So we are asking for the overall sign area, the materials, and the internal illumination. The light bars were included just because even though it's not technically signage, it's along with the signage for that iconic Permane Brothers look.
A question for you. The type of signage that you're talking about now, the internally illuminated LEDs out of vinyl and acrylic, for these days, that's pretty, is that pretty standard signage for commercial properties?
Yes,
Okay.
a channel letter set with LED lighting is what we sell time and time again. The second option would be an illuminated sign box or a wall cabinet. That's primarily what everyone goes for these days, is the channel letter sets.
In the city limits, outside the city limits, doesn't make any
It
difference?
doesn't matter, yes.
Okay.
Any questions no? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Miller.
Do have a question
Oh, you do?
for the city.
Oh, yeah, go.
Okay.
I think thank you very much.
I mean, because we're coming into these situations more often, it seems, with like these downtown signs. And has the city considered any sort of illumination, like lumen requirement or like maximum? Because with the Permane Brothers signs, there's these red lights, and you're going to have the residents across the street who are going to be seeing those lights. And so if they're at a certain intensity, those would be
Yeah.
a distraction for residents.
Yeah, so the
They-
city is going to be taking a look at the whole entire sign code.
Okay.
And we'll probably be trying to address that issue.
Because then they could just turn them down a little bit, and they wouldn't be as as bright.
Right. And we want to provide clarity in our sign code too. So that's one of the reasons why we're going to be undertaking a process this year to update it.
Lovely. Thank you, Rick.
Is there a template that you can use from a similarly sized municipality that we can use as a model for doing the revisions we need to do with regard to
Yes, we'll be working with,
illumination?
we'll be working with a consultant that can provide a fresh set of eyes that can take a look and say, here's what, evaluate our sign codes, see here where there are improvements or deficiencies, and then make recommendations to maybe streamline it. And because I know that the board gets a lot of variance requests for this type of work. So,
My question was directed
mhm.
at that. It's what they're proposing is pretty standard.
Mm-hmm.
And to have it come here to ask for permission to do what is standard seems a bit backwards.
Yeah, I guess it's just and this will be probably evaluated, but the aesthetic, what does the community want downtown and High Street in term, to look like?
I guess this is a question. Actually, I'll wait on this question because you might answer this. And
Why don't we just
Yeah.
address the question now?
my question that I guess is about the size of this. It seems to me, from my recollection, that isn't substantially different than any other high street signage. It might be a few inches this way or that way, but in terms of like the impression on the street, it seems to be pretty standard.
So, first of all, my name is Craig Lee Masters. I own Graphic Detail Incorporated. We're the manufacturer of all their exterior and interior signage for Permanente. We've done a lot of this, and we've been working through many towns and stuff like this. And yes, this is pretty much a standard sign package. As you guys were talking about, we can set up the LED neon, the faux neon, and the signs to dim to a certain K value. Okay, so we can make them so they're not, because you don't want them like blasting,
At 2 a.m.
But yeah, correct. So we can set it up for the correct value. If you guys can give us the value of that, that's usually something that can be done. That cities will give you a factor of like how bright and stuff, so they can be dimmed. So that will answer that question. As of these signs, the sizing on theirs, the reason for those sizes is that's what aesthetically is the easiest to read for the size of the building and to get the logo or the image across. Okay, I mean, you could do bigger signs and you could do smaller signs, but the restaurant and bar, those letters are approximately 9 inches tall.
Right.
So in a car, a 9-inch tall letter driving even at 20 mile an hour is not, that's not oversized to read. So it's the appropriate size, coming down. And if you look when you go down the road, if you look down there and if you guys drive down, you can see where there's some really small signage on a bigger building, and it's unreadable.
Right.
So, this would actually be a help, and like you guys said, you guys are working to get with a third party to build a sign code for that and stuff. And I think that would be, like you said, why, we're asking for a variance, but you said maybe it should be something that should just be in the code. And yeah, I think that would be a big help for everybody. It'd be help for all the businesses, to have that.
You mentioned 9 inches height.
Approximate, I don't.
Right, yeah. But that's fairly standard signage text height, correct?
Not 12. 12's usually your
12?
standard. 12's
So
usually.
you're significantly under.
Yeah, we're under. Like, take for instance, your Morgantown right there for in here is 6 inches. So that gives
Yeah.
you, we're not going, it's not, and that whole area you have is approximately 30 inches there. So we're not, we're taking up about a third of the space for restaurant and bar. Now, Permanente Brothers is taller, but that's the main factor. The other thing is this is actually quite a bit less than Permanente usually runs on their signs. There's other signage that says like sandwiches and a lot of other elements that we are eliminating down because we know that the square footage and the code to try and be more compliant right off the bat. Also, the lettering that's above the door, that's just vinyl lettering. That's not going to have any effect. That probably won't even, that was just put in on the rendering.
Okay.
So don't affect any of, that won't have any effect or appeal. But
And this sign area at this location and the font heights are more or less comparable with your Suncrest.
and Suncrest is,
Yeah.
Are they similar, comparable?
Yeah, so this would be comparable in terms of, I can't speak to the specific square footage of the signage package at Suncrest.
Right.
But in terms of like its relative size to the building, yes, it's not like, some concepts that might have a comically large sign as part of their brand. Like that's not, we're not doing
Well,
that.
I would think with regard to this location, just because of the nature of traffic and flow, I would be comfortable with slightly higher font heights here as compared to Suncrest.
Yeah, again, as it pertains to Suncrest, I'm not sure what the signage size there is, or
My impression it's comparable.
Yeah, it feels comfortable to me. And the one other note I would make on this is that as you're driving down High Street too, you'll see in some cases, it's a less costly endeavor to build like a full box sign where you may have the full square footage as one large illuminated panel.
Single element.
A
as
single
opposed to-
element. Whereas here you're looking with the individual channel letters. So in terms of like how bright it is, or you don't want the person across the street to like be blown out by the light, neither do we. And so those pieces are part of the consideration here to ensure that that's the individual channel letters. So you're still seeing like the natural, exterior of the building, kind of between the different signs.
All right, thank you. So there are two parts to the variance request. There's the illumination, and then there's the area. Are we any more or less comfortable with the one versus the other?
Illumination's what I have concerns with. I mean, size, it's like you said, you're gonna be able to see it when you're coming down the road. So, but I just worry about the tenants and the either adjacent or how it's shining above the building. But it looks like there's some sort of little canopy maybe there that blocks up from above.
I think that's a valid concern, but.
Do you want to propose a condition
No,
based
because
on your
the city
concerns?
still hasn't come up with that, and so it would just be
Is,
arbitrary right now.
is there any mechanism
There's nothing for us to say.
to enforce? It's a valid concern. But if there's no mechanism that we have,
Yeah, there isn't.
I
Not yet.
think
Not
too,
yet. At
just
least.
like as being a in the effort of being a good neighbor to the street. Like I've driven down, not this street in particular, but there's some businesses that turn these signs up like super bright, and they go with like these very bright white like exterior lighting, and it's it can blow you away, and that's not our goal here. The aim is to be tasteful. The aim is to provide, obviously recognition for what it is that we're doing in that space. But we certainly we're not looking to blast the outside of the building, with signage necessarily, or with brilliance and brightness, I guess is the proper term.
This doesn't seem inconsistent with other, with
No.
regard to.
We've approved these before, even like the coffee shop.
But your concern is having to remediate after the fact across the board.
Can we remediate after the fact? I'm sorry, I lost your name to the left. Craig. Like you mentioned, they have adjustments where they can set the K value. Well, that's more temperature though, isn't it?
yeah, well, it's temperature, but it's also brightness.
It's also brightness.
So
they-
we can actually,
And you could put that on a timer too?
the sign will be on a
Just to-
timer.
It already will be on a timer.
The timer will be on a timer.
Oh, that's great.
The K value of it, or the brightness, we can handle a couple different ways.
Yeah.
How the LEDs go inside, they're modules, okay? And we can limit the number of modules to gain the cabinet brightness that you need.
Oh,
Okay?
Gotcha.
So it's not like a neon tube. There's no these are individual little neon square bulbs, and you place them inside, okay?
Right.
And we can, when we go to engineering on this, okay, we can tell, when we engineer it, the company that makes the lights will actually give you a light pattern. and we can say we want this to be half bright, you know, and dim it down, and they will give us a light pattern, which we will actually show when we go for actual engineering permitting and all that. We will actually show that light, correct? Yes,
Well,
so
what
we
about
will
like-
show that light pattern that will take it to the level that, you know.
So
that-
is that a function of like voltage
That's what I was, yeah. It's not that.
flowing through and resistance?
Well, he's
No.
saying it's number of lights, but
No, it's the number of.
It's the output
It's
and the
the
number
output of the bulbs.
components. Oh, I
Yes.
see. Okay, that's totally
Okay,
different. Okay.
But I
but
thought it
that
would
being
be
said,
voltage, and that's what I thought too. I thought it
that
should
being
be.
said, it can also be put on a dimmer, and it can also be put on a dimmer that works off of a remote control. So
Oh.
it's something that we could, the signs could be up, and you guys we could have a meeting out there, and we could set that
Right.
and make it the way that it is. So, and it might set a good standard for the street too, because you don't want it to be bright. You want it to be cozy.
Right.
You know, you don't want it now.
But we also don't want it to be somebody's opinion.
Correct.
You know, so like I think it needs to come
That-
back to Ricky and the
Yeah.
city coming to like some sort of like we hold a little light meter out there on the street at night and we've hit the value. You know.
Or even do a video capture,
Yeah.
a time time
Time lapse or something.
elapse over a 6-hour period between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. Are we comfortable with this based on the video capture?
Like what's going on in the street light compared to what's illuminating down the street, et cetera.
Right.
That could be another way to.
So
to
it
measure
sounds as if technology is going to prevent the need for us to draft some kind of condition with regard to
I don't,
the illumination.
with the drafting of a condition, based on what city mechanism?
Right.
Because they've already stated that they are conscious of that. I'm just wondering, like, what teeth do we have
I don't think we have any.
to say,
Yeah.
yeah, this is a valid concern. I'm not saying that.
You have an additional point?
But they're voluntarily adding a dimmer and they're going to do it so
Right.
that
And I think-
all fits my concerns. So that's
So
appreciated.
the point of the discussion here today is on not the brightness of the signs. We're very willing to work with the city and with whatever oversight bodies we need to make sure the signs are bright, are of the appropriate level. I think in terms of the variance that we're requesting today is based on size
Exactly.
and whether or not internal illumination, however bright,
Right.
is allowed or is not allowed.
Right.
So I think as it pertains to brightness, we can continue the conversation, and we're very happy to do that in a way that is beneficial for
Well, we've
everybody.
approved these style of signs
Right,
downtown.
for other cases.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go
I was
ahead.
only more concerned just the red lights being more of a,
Sure, understood.
nuisance than anything else downtown, you know, from a feeling of driving downtown.
Got it.
And that was my concern on it.
And then with regard to the area variance, based on, Ms. Miller mentioned on the front facade, it's not 74, it's 76. So I did some computations, and I think so the requested square footage, or the variance request, I think is 54.47 square feet.
Okay.
And that includes Chestnut. I've factored
The
that in.
backside. Oh, okay.
That's for everything.
So they're only asking for 20 more square feet than what they're allotted. Is that correct?
Is that right, Mr. Yeager? I think, so they're requesting
If
54.47.
it's 74, it's, hold on a second. So you said 76.
76 times .4,
4.
which would bring it up to 30.4.
Right.
And then it's another 7.6 for Chestnut. So that's 38. That's allowed.
Are we looking at that as the linear frontage of the building?
I would base the variance off of the storefront, the actual high street as it
Just
is.
High Street.
Right.
So the Chestnut side sign is being considered as part of the
Correct.
allowable from the High Street side,
That's how-
you're not including the additional 20 feet
Yeah,
of frontage that
Right.
Chestnut has.
Because it doesn't front actually on Chestnut
Right.
Street.
Okay.
But the sign is also not on
Right.
High Street, it's on Chestnut Street.
Right.
So it's not, well, okay, so 92.47. What's allowed is about 38. So the difference there is about 55. Correct? That's what they're asking for,
Yeah.
which is pretty large, but, I mean, just looking
It's a
at it,
large storefront.
it's not out of proportion with the
Right.
building,
Yeah.
and it's not inconsistent with what we've,
I mean, it's double the size
Granted.
of the normal places we've looked at anyways.
right. So, Ms. Miller, did you want to make an additional comment?
I was gonna say, just from a generalized standpoint, you're basically looking at signage that is 1 square foot per 1 linear foot of
Right.
storefront. So, I mean, the visual impact of that.
That's a good way of
is
looking
what
at
that
it.
would equate to.
Yeah, I mean, it's in proportion to the facade.
Yeah. I
Correct.
like it. Looks good.
Especially with regard to, you've got, it's a not wayfinding so much as, oh, there's Primonti from High Street, and everyone's rolling down that one way. We don't want any, creating any traffic hazard. So I think, I mean, the font height, it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, I think that, I mean, with the restorations they're doing to the building, it's really gonna clean that whole facade up. I like
Yes. So, any other questions or, oh,
Oh, just my quick calculation, if you look at the 0.4 times the 76 feet,
Uh-huh.
that's 30.4 is the maximum sign area permitted. And then what they're
Oh, it's
proposing
30.
is 92.47 square foot. So take that, subtract the max area permitted, and it's 62.07.
it's actually 60, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's slightly smaller than what was stated in the packet.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, Mr. Plyler, do you have any other questions for any of the,
No, I think what they're proposing seems to be very sensitive to potential issues, and I think that what they're also proposing is standard issue for signage packages, not only their own business, but businesses all up and down High Street.
and they have the benefit of much past experience in putting these proposals together. Okay, so, no further questions, we're gonna open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to this case, V 24-01? Now is your opportunity to speak. Seeing no one, we're gonna close the public hearing. Mr. Yeager?
Staff had no, in terms of recommendations, staff had no additions or corrections to the findings of fact presented by the applicant. And as is customary, the sign variance petitions, no recommendation is submitted by staff concerning the proposed request.
Thank
No
you.
recommendations. I'll
Do we have-
motion to approve.
So we have a
Findings.
motion.
Oh,
but-
we have to find, okay, I think they got cut off.
Oh, yeah, we need a motion for the findings of fact
Okay.
first.
Okay.
And they're very straightforward.
Okay, well, I motion that we accept the findings of fact from the city.
I second.
So we have a motion by Mr. DeWitt to accept the findings of fact for V 24-01 with a second by Ms. Cook, barring any further last minute questions. They're very straightforward. So how do we vote on acceptance of findings of fact?
Aye.
Aye.
The findings of fact have been accepted. Do we have a motion to grant this variance request?
I'll motion to grant the.
And I will second that. So we have a motion to grant the variance request for this case with second by me. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we've granted your variance request. Thank you very much. You will receive written notification from planning, generally 7 business days. Please keep in mind that any work you undertake during the potential 30-day appeals window at the Circuit Court of Montague County, you do that work at your sole financial risk. Thank you very much, and good luck with your
Thanks,
endeavor.
everybody.
Safe travels.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Cheers.
All right, Mr. Yeager, do we have announcements?
Just wanted to follow up on the information that was provided by staff regarding potential change in dates. We can handle that offline if you want to, but
Yeah.
we do need to discuss
And
that.
that's for April and May.
For April and May. Staff will be out of town, and
Oh.
we'll need to look at,
So are you just generally, you're proposing pushing
Yeah,
both
so-
meetings back by a week, right?
yes and no. So in April, we'd be asked to move it back to 4/24, and then in May to move it back to the 5/23, which is actually a Thursday as opposed to a Wednesday. And that's because staff will be at a conference
Okay.
at
Look
that
at that.
time.
424, 523.
Yep, and I think Mr. Plyler's already responded to Ms. McDonald and informed her of what his schedule would permit. So I could just continue, we can either talk about that offline
Yeah.
or,
Yeah.
I
you
move we
know,
adjourn.
yeah.
This meeting is so adjourned.
That's good. It's so adjourned.
Let's just wait for the red light.